Hello and welcome. I'm Millicent Walker. Tonight, police arrest another member of the kidnap syndicate headed by Hamisu Bala, also known as Wadume, in Taraba State. Joint security operatives intercept 6 mine-resistant military vehicles in the border town of Adamawa State. President Muhammadu Buhari departs Nigeria for Japan for the 17th Tokyo International Conference on African Development. And Hong Kong peaceful demonstration turns violent as police fire a live round and use water cannon on protesters. With security as Nigerians await the submission of a report by the 7-man investigative panel probing the killing of 3 policemen and a civilian in Taraba State. Another member of the arrested kidnapper, Hamisu Bala, alias Wadume, has been apprehended in Wukari area of the state. Channels Television gathered that the home of the suspect, simply identified as Uche, was raided in the early hours of Sunday by a detachment of operatives from the Inspector General of Police Intelligence Response Team drawn from units across the country. This latest arrest now brings to 6 members of the gang in custody of the police, with several arms recovered. The team also recovered 13 vehicles and identified over 20 houses allegedly owned by the kingpin. The team, with the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, at the helm of affairs, had presented the gang leader, Hamisu Bala, before a military investigative panel for interrogation last week. The joint security operatives in the border town of Adamawa State have intercepted 6 mines-resistant military vehicles. The trucks alleged to be owned by the American military were intercepted while transiting from Cameroon to Niger via the Nigerian border. Confirming the incident to Channels Television, the Customs Service Public Relations Officer, Mr. Joseph Atta, says the trucks and the contents therein are with the Yola command of the service pending the conclusions of investigations into the matter. According to Mr. Atta, the service is aware that American military bases exist in Cameroon and Niger Republic, but says there are transit procedures in moving such equipment through a nation's border. It's almost 1 week after the federal government announced a partial shutdown of land borders in some parts of the country, and reactions are still trailing that decision. The operation, which is expected to last for 28 days across 4 zones, is seen by many as a way of checking criminal activities along the borders. Our next report brings us up to date on the situation at some of the borders. It's day 6 of the Joint Task Force operation, and the level of compliance to the order of the Office of the National Security Advisor is in full force across the land borders in the country. In Cross River State, Nigeria's south-south region, the Ikang maritime border between Nigeria and Cameroon is operationally shut down.
We send our wife to the market to go and buy food items, but because of that, because of the closing of the border, I could not have any dime, because this is my only sort of incomes where I get money to feed my family and school them.
These are common sights around the land border in some of the busiest land borders in Nigeria, sharing international boundary with the Republic of Benin.
Payment has been made, duties has been paid. People that even have their consignment payment on ground couldn't even move. A lot of activities are paralyzed. There is nothing we can do against the federal government. What federal government needs, insecurity, we know insecurity is a major challenge to this government. Then who are we to counter government? But they should understand ECOWAS protocol is very, very important.
This is the land border in Idiroko area of Ogun State. The usual hustle and bustle may be missing, but that does not stop the officers from apprehending anyone whose mission is suspect.
They should consider us and open this border for us, so that something that's even worse than this will not be occur.
As seized items are evacuated from the checkpoints to the customs warehouses, traders, importers and agents can only hope that the operation will be reviewed to accommodate genuine concerns. The Nigerian Army authorities have been speaking on its operations, particularly as they relate to human rights in various theatres of operations. Now, this comes against the backdrop of persistent allegations made by international organizations that the Nigerian Army violates the human rights of those it fights. But the Chief of Army Policy and Plans, Lieutenant General Lamidi Adeosun, told Channels Television's Ladia Keredoluale on our program Newsnight that those organizations are guilty of hypocrisy and that the Army has scrupulously followed its rules of engagement under international humanitarian law since day one.
Nigerian military, and particularly Nigerian Army, is not a rebel force, it's a regular army that goes through all the processes of adequate training, taught on human rights, on international humanitarian law. We have our rules of engagement, and we have our code of conduct. Aside from that, if somebody errs and violates any of those codes and rules and regulations that I've mentioned, there are standing court-martials. Investigation is done. If there are doubts or there are signs of culpability, they are referred to court-martial. Court-martial deals with the situation. Some soldiers and officers have gone to jail from court-martial. If we have internal capacity to deal with situations, why should an outsider come and tell us, no, what you are doing is wrong? It is what we bought from outside. Whose right? Whose interest?
For the full interview with General Adeosun, do watch Newsnight tomorrow, Monday, the 26th of August at 9 p.m, only on Channels Television. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, says it has arrested a cybercrime syndicate in Benin, the Edo State capital. Osagele Collins was arrested alongside two other suspects said to be siblings, Stephen and Fred Emefiele. According to the commission, the syndicate specializes in business email compromise. The lead suspect was said to have confessed to searching for his victims' email addresses, especially official business email addresses, creating a phishing link and compromising the process in order to defraud unsuspecting victims. Some of the items recovered from the residence of the suspects include laptops, printer, internet modem, flash drive, and Mercedes-Benz ML350. Still on financial crimes, the federal government has been reacting to the arrests made by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, of some Nigerians charged with what has been described as one of the biggest cases of internet fraud in the United States of America. President Buhari's media aide, Mr. Garba Shehu, while speaking on Sunday Politics, told Channels Television that the government of Nigeria will cooperate with the United States government on the prosecution of the suspects and, where necessary, extradition to achieve justice. Mr. Shehu, however, says the actions of the suspects should not be used as a yardstick to judge other Nigerians.
They know that the action of a few Nigerians is not the action of all of Nigerians. We are 200 million plus in this country. And you're talking about 80 in this case in the United States of America. They will face the justice system of the country. If the Nigerian government is required to cooperate in any way, extradition or any other way, yes, if it meets the requirements of our laws, they will be assisted to prosecute them and to face justice in those cases. But this thing is not about Nigerians. Nigerians are hardworking and honest people all over the world. There are millions of our citizens who are out there earning legitimately their own incomes. No, they don't deserve to be so tarnished. Yes, they are talking to our Ministry of Justice. The Diaspora Commission is also there, primarily concerned for those rights of fellow citizens. The Nigerian government has taken a position on this matter. It's cooperation all the way. We will cooperate.
And the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has written to the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, advising him to develop and adopt public registers for corrupt state governors and other high-ranking public officials charged with and convicted of grand corruption since the return of democracy in 1999. In the petition by the organization's Deputy Director, Kolawole Oluwadare, SERAP says, quote, "The proposed registers are far from severe and would be a proportionate response to the grave crime of grand corruption and impunity of perpetrators and have a deterrent effect. There can be no reasonable expectation of privacy in matters already exposed to public viewing, such as prior arrests, charges, and conviction records." End of quote. Furthermore, SERAP believes that the proposed registers for corrupt officials, when operational, would serve a public interest purpose similar in some respects to the recently disclosed names and details by the United States Department of Justice of the 80 defendants, most of whom are Nigerians, that have been charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, aggravated identity theft, and other charges. President Muhammadu Buhari departed Nigeria for Japan to participate in the 7th Tokyo International Conference on African Development holding in Yokohama between August the 28th and 30th. With the theme, Africa and Yokohama Sharing Passion for the Future, President Buhari will be delivering Nigeria's statements during plenary session to appraise Nigeria-Japan relations and takeaways from the conference. In addition to a bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, President Buhari will also attend some side events and meet chief executive officers of some Japanese companies with investments in Nigeria. The conference is expected to focus on Africa's economic transformation and improvement in the business environment, private investment and innovation. He's accompanied by governors of Borno, Lagos and Kwara states, including ministers and other top government officials. The president is expected back in Nigeria Saturday, August the 31st. And the Imo State Governor, Emeka Ihedioha, has reinstated his administration's commitments to job creation as a way of developing the state's economy. He was addressing youths at the Sam Mbakwe Airport, Owerri, saying his government would not be bothered or distracted by commentaries that do not represent the focus of his government. He insists that youth empowerment through skill acquisition and entrepreneurial development remains a priority of his government.
Under our watch, we will ensure that whatever we promise, we keep faith with those promises we make. Remain law-abiding, be diligent, we'll engage Nigerian students in a short while. We also engage the youths. We are working on a series of programs to engage you. So that one, apart from education, we also look at what happens to you in terms of preparing you for life after school. We'll prepare for life after school and ensure that if it's for people that we need to help in the area of craftsmanship, we'll do that. For those who can help in areas of furthering the education, we'll do that. For those who also will help in terms of creating jobs, we'll do that. Unfortunately, the last administration never bothered about creating jobs. By the time we reel out our records early next month, you understand, you come to see with names of persons that the state government has engineered their employment and engagement within the confines of the state. Now, when we say we're going to create jobs and create wealth, that is how we're going to go about it. It will come from those who have them to lose. We shall take steps to protect the lives and properties of Imo citizens. Yes, that's what I'll tell you. And we also will take deliberate steps to make sure that security agencies in the country are aware of the situation, are aware of the threat to peace and security in our land. And this government will not shy away from taking bold actions, as you know that when it becomes necessary, we shall act courageously, and the way we will do things in such a manner and way that everybody in our states will be happy.
In part two, after the break, experts call for improvement to the budget process, just as some Nigerians criticize the low budget allocation to major sectors. That and more will form the basis of our discussion with our in-house analyst, Babajide Ogunsowo. Please join us again.